Good evening. It is 5:45. We are beginning this evening with an executive session for 30 minutes. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss the performance of a public employee, potential litigation, and the legal or financial risks of a course of action. We will be returning for the beginning of our open session at 6:30. It is 6:34. I apologize for our tardiness. Our executive session adjourned at 6:15 p.m. Welcome. This is, as I stated, it is 6:34, and we are calling to order our regular meeting. We will begin with a roll call of our board members. I will state each person's name for attendance. If you are present, please indicate it by saying present. Director Gregory.
Present.
Director Song.
Present.
Director Song is attending virtually. Director Clark.
Present.
Vice President Cook.
Present.
And I am present. Superintendent Vela, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. This is a meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We welcome the public's participation in the board meeting and thank those of you who have come to this meeting and those who are viewing via our live stream. The purpose of a board meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to but not respond to comments from visitors. Whether made verbally in person, verbally on video, or written, comments are limited to a total of one per person for a regular board meeting. One additional comment per person may be submitted for a public hearing topic if there is a public hearing on the agenda. All forms of public comment are subject to Chapter 4256 RCW Public Records Act. The public may comment at regular board meetings in a manner authorized by state law. All comments must adhere to Policy 1420 and Procedure 1420P. If you wish to make a comment to the board, comment forms are available for completion prior to the meeting and must be turned in no later than the beginning of the legislative report. No forms will be accepted once this report has begun. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Public comments will be heard after the agenda review. Students will be the first to speak on any topic during the student voice portion of the agenda, which takes place immediately following this opening. General public comments from non-students will be heard during preliminary communication from the audience. Any remaining comments, whether from students or non-students, will be heard at specific agenda items and during final communication from the audience. Student comments will be the first heard on any topic. Please state your first and last name prior to beginning your testimony. Abuse of public comments personally directed towards the board, staff, or students will not be tolerated. The use of specific names or personally identifiable information of board, staff, or students is not allowed. Board members or KSD staff members may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when not adhering to Procedure 1420P. All comments, whether verbal or written, must adhere to the standards of civility as defined in Policy 1400, Meeting Conduct, Order of Business, and Quorum. If you're seated in overflow room, there is a brief delay in the live stream audio. We will allow extra time for you to make your way to the boardroom after your name is called. Individuals with items for the board or superintendent must provide them directly to our safety services staff. Approaching the dais during the board meeting is not allowed. Any items turned in will be provided to the board and superintendent following the meeting. Director Gregory, can you please lead us in our land acknowledgement?
We acknowledge we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, who historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and Puget Sound.
Thank you. We're now to our agenda review. Superintendent Vela, are there any changes to the agenda?
President Margell, there are no changes to the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda as printed.
I do have a question. I have a question about the.
Could you second it, and then we do it during discussion?
Second.
We are now open for discussion.
I was just wondering, I noticed in our previous calendar prior to, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we had both a meeting scheduled for last week and this week for work sessions. And I was just wondering, because I don't remember seeing anything about why we canceled them.
The information that was going to be included in those work sessions where we were able to consolidate into other meetings during the month to be able to consolidate time and in observance of having some Wednesdays maybe a little free being able to have the same information in a more consolidated manner.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Great. Seeing that there's been a motion made and seconded for approval of the agenda as stated, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. Our next section is our student voice section.
I'll ask Ms. Intella to see if we have any comment cards from our students.
Good evening, President Markell, members of the board, and welcome Director Gregory, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. No student comments were received online, whether video or written, and none have been submitted here in person thus far this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We do move on to our next presentation about Cedar Valley Elementary, and I call upon Superintendent Vella.
Thank you so much, President Margot. We're excited to have the board hear from one of our schools. As you recall, we've moved students to the front of our agenda, and it's always exciting to not only hear from them first from our audience, but also from our schools. So excited about that. I'm going to call upon our Executive Director of Schools and Learning Support, Ms. Kathy Emmerich, to come and introduce our guest today.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, Ms. Curry. It is such a pleasure to be the principal supervisor of Cedar Valley Elementary School. Although I've only worked with this school for 1 year, I can tell that Nicole and her staff are so deeply committed to their students, getting to know them, all of their strengths, their unique personalities and needs, and then really tailor educational systems that support their growth both academically and socially. We're really excited to hear about the school tonight, meet one of their students, and I think you'll just see the love and joy that they promote across their building every day. So without further ado, welcome Principal Nicole O'Brien.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. Thank you for this opportunity to share the amazing work that's being done at Cedar Valley on behalf of our scholars. I'd like to begin first just by showing you a picture of our beautiful little school in Covington, Washington. And we are the home of the cheetahs. This is a quick demographic overview. We serve approximately 320 scholars, and we also are home to a couple of really unique programs serving some students in inclusive education. You can see those highlighted here. In addition to our students in pre-K, which is an inclusive preschool program, we also house a LINK program, which serves the unique needs of students in inclusive education. You can see the languages spoken at our school here. We are privileged to have about 1/5 of our student population speaking more than one language. As I am sharing the data overview really quickly, I wanted to just highlight student voice at our school. And so this icon that you'll see on a few slides is here to signal how we are honoring student voice in addition to providing a guaranteed viable curriculum for our students. So that's a visual cue for you to just be listening for that student voice piece. And this is actually a state award that was just started this year by AWSP and WASA, AWSL and AWSP. And it really honors schools that are attempting to collaborate with their students and families to honor student voice. We know that improves engagement, improves academics, improves a love of learning, and gets our kids excited to come to school every day. You can see we're just one of 20 schools that were awarded the Schools on the Rise Award for our student voice focus. Another way that we are centering student voice, much like our school board is doing here and starting with students, is that our leadership is studying the book Street Data. And you'll see the quote above there, just highlighting that data is one piece of the story when you're looking at a bar graph. And really what street data does is urges us to look a little bit deeper at the complexity of the stories behind the data. And that's what I'll attempt to share with you quickly as we go through our slides here. Our sort of high-level data shows you here that we are on a slight increase for our ELA, English Language Arts, Smarter Balance. But I wanted to highlight also here these lovely scholars who have their books of the month, which they get for free. Every month they're allowed to choose a book of their interest, which we know that authentic experience with books and really enjoying what they're reading is so important and a great supplement to our CKLA curriculum. And just a little bit finer detail here, you can see our iReady scores. These are given in fall. The test is given in fall, winter, and spring. And I'd just like you to notice the blue slowly increasing over time, those top bars where kids are at or exceeding grade level. And then you can see down below the orange, the deeper orange, those numbers reducing over the years, so kids not making grade level. And then I'd like to also just highlight the student voice piece here of authentic reading and writing. This is an example from our one of our scholars writing to the KSD linemen, thanking them for their service that was much appreciated this year. Next up, we have our kind of high-level math scores. And you can see, over the last 3 years, kind of staying the same. And one of our efforts to improve our math scores is to include student voice on a daily basis in our math instruction. And so you see some scholars here working on a vertical surface, not at a desk in a traditional format, but working together collaboratively to really express some deeper, complex thinking and not just really concerned with getting the right answer. And we believe that's really going to move our math scores. And if we look into finer detail on the next slide, I'll reference this book that just popped up. Many of our staff members have been involved in practicing the techniques and the strategies presented in this book in order to get our kids truly engaged as mathematicians and not just getting the work done or getting the right answer. And so this next data that you'll see is our iReady math data. And I want you to just kind of pay attention to those blue bars. Those are the kids that, in first grade particularly, they showed, in this 15 bar here where you see 15 scholars, they showed 10 to 19 points of growth. The next bar over, 10 of our first graders showed 20 to 29 points of growth, and so on and so forth. So you're seeing tons and tons of growth here in our mathematics classrooms in first grade. And the reason I highlight first grade is because that is the team that did the most work around thinking classrooms, that book that I just referenced. And then just as a reference point, we're really proud of the growth that our scholars made in math, and I just wanted to show you the average for KSD right now was about 19 points of growth in first grade. In Cedar Valley, we are proud to say, showed 25 points of growth. These are our higher level SBA scores for science, only given once a year, and you can see those are on the rise as well. Sorry about that. The student voice piece here is that we're really trying to help our kids understand how to express their thinking. Much like the thinking classrooms work, we know it's not about test practice or getting to the right answer. It's about developing kids who want to think and ask questions and really dive into the inquiry behind what authentic science is really supposed to be about. So we're excited to see those scores rising up as well. Attendance, of course, is a topic of conversation at almost every school, and we are working hard at Cedar Valley to improve our attendance. One way, besides the traditional methods that we all know are tried and true, making sure that our students feel included and they have a sense of belonging, they want to be there, and then supporting families along the way when there are barriers to attendance. But specifically, I thought I would share this quick picture of a scholar who potentially may have not wanted to come to school because of maybe a damaged relationship or something that happened at school. And so we thought to welcome her back after, something that happened, we wanted to do it in a way that celebrated the relationship between her and the teacher and solidify that bond between them. And so we're thinking of non-traditional ways and outside of the box ways to help support kids and make sure that when they walk through the doors, they have a feeling of warmth and they have a feeling of this place is for me. This was individualized. Someone thought of me ahead of time before I came. And there's a lot of color happening in this slide, so I'd like you to just pay attention to the purple bar for a moment. Our data for behavior is measured with a system called SWIS. So the title of the slide is Overall SWIS Data. And the different colors represent years, but purple, of course, is 24-25. And I'd just like you to notice how those discipline referrals are reducing for us across the board every month. And we really accredit that to honoring student voice. So starting the classroom day with a class meeting, making sure every child gets a check-in, a greeting at the door, and that's a picture of one of our second grade classrooms. I know that you're all likely familiar with our strategic plan because it is a focus at every single professional development that I'm at. Every meeting, we are making sure that our goals and our learning is tied to these so that we are aligned in our vision and that the work we're doing is working towards a common goal. But I wanted to highlight something that is kind of underlying those goals, and that is our core values. You'll find these on the webpage in a little bit different format. I'd love for you to pay attention to the middle box, and that core value of excellence really highlights being student-centered. And so we know that our work at Cedar Valley around centering student voice is tying in perfectly with our district's core values and strategic plan. I wanted to highlight a few other ways that you'll see student voice popping up across the school. You see on the your left, the hopes and dreams of one of our scholars. You see students leading assemblies, and you see them designing our Spirit Weeks, as well as many other school-wide activities. I'm pleased to report, I just did my mid-year school improvement review, and these are our goals, and we are making progress, and I feel like we are on track by looking at the data that I've seen to meet all of our goals. Our reading and math goal is really similar, and it's just about improving overall across our school, improving test scores. And what you won't see here is just enough focus on kids who traditionally, groups of kids that haven't. And so as I looked at the scores for this mid-year review, I saw that we were already meeting a lot of these goals. So I'm having to kind of adjust and think about where do we go from here now that we have a full spring in front of us. Our science goal also includes some student voice. As I had mentioned, we're really focused on authentic student thinking and not just getting the right answer. And so our science goal is for students to be able to model their thinking and show that through pictures, numbers, and words. And similarly here, we are just working at reducing those discipline entries, making sure students aren't missing class for behavior reasons or engagement issues. And again, we are on track to meet those goals. Last and most important, I'd love to highlight one of our Cedar Valley cheetahs who really embodies and exemplifies that ability to use student voice to make our school a better place. And so before I bring Portia and her family up, I just want to introduce her by letting you know that Portia commands the room. She actually came up in front of our school before our Martin Luther King celebration and kind of gave everyone a lesson in what it looks like to say the Pledge of Allegiance in a way that is respectful and also respects the individual viewpoints of all kids. And she did that so beautifully as a 5th grade student. So Portia is our ASB president. She is the head of a crochet club that she came up with on her own, and we said, yes, go do it. She plays the flute, and she helps our safety patrol and many, many other wonderful, wonderful things. So Portia Hargerhausen, please come on up and accept your award with your family. And thank you.
Count three. 1, 2, 3. Keep holding the smile. Take one more. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Principal O'Brien and Portia and her family for joining us. We now move on to our next presentation, 3.02, Kent School District Facilities. Again, I call upon Superintendent Vella.
Thank you, President Arkell. I'd like to call up Deputy Superintendent Dr. Wade Behringer, who will be introducing our speaker for this evening.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Bella, Ms. Curry. Excited to have one of our operations staff here this evening, Director of Facilities Gordon Cook, to share a little bit and a little bit more about all the work that Facilities, Environmental Services, and Maintenance does for the Kent School District. So I'm going to turn it over to Gordon, and he's going to take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Behringer. Okay. Can everybody hear that? Are we okay? All right. Good evening, President Margell, board members, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. Tonight I'm going to give you a brief overview of the facilities team, which includes the environmental services team and the maintenance team. I'd like to start out by thanking Kurt Anderson, Steve Fairbanks, Valerie Lupi Carlson, and Tricia Garcia. These are members of our team, and they provided information, support, and ideas which added to the value of the information that I'll be sharing with you tonight. Our mission is to provide clean, safe, operational, and appropriate schools for our students so they can have great experiences. We have standardized cleaning processes, and regular cleaning occurs during the school year. We do deep cleaning on breaks and in the summer. We make sure our facilities are safe and that we meet regulatory and safety requirements. We ensure that our facilities operate as designed and intended. Appropriate spaces are functional, suitable, applicable, and used according to their design and purpose. Our goal is to have schools ready for students every day. This slide outlines the areas that facilities team is responsible for maintaining, operating, and cleaning. The facilities team also completes a capacity study annually, which documents how all of our educational spaces are being used. This slide shows data from the recent capacity study about how the 162 portables that we have in the school district are being used this year. The value of our classified employees who make up our workforce cannot be overstated. We are the most diverse team in the district, and we have members from 17 countries speaking 17 languages. Because of their daily interactions with students, staff, and the community, our environmental services team is often the face of facilities. In addition to their regular duties, many custodians also organize green teams, coordinate after-hours clubs, help with plays, and act as interpreters when needed. These graphs are taken from a presentation last fall, and they show when our buildings were built, project life expectancy, and the current condition. The deferred maintenance costs listed there are estimates. The facilities team responds to external events that affect the operation of our buildings. Vandalism, snow, strong winds, heavy rains, and failed systems are a few examples of these. We have equipment and supplies to respond to any emergency at any site, from broken pipes to toilet paper shortages. Because of our limited staffing, maintenance team and environmental team leaders have developed systems that identify and create ways to systematically track and address them. The maintenance team has been implementing 2 strategies. The first strategy is the STRAND strategy. The STRAND strategy involves visiting every school in 1 strand in 1 week. In 4 weeks, a month time, this results in us visiting every school in the district. The aging report strategy uses work orders to drive the direction of our work. High priority work orders, our goal is to have them done in 5 days. Medium priorities are done in 15 days, and low priorities are done in 45 days. Work orders that exceed 45 days are rolled into the high priority status so that they can be addressed. The environmental services team uses task sheets. Task sheets determine the workflow. The head custodian enters tasks to be completed and passes them on to the next shift. Task sheets are also used to record changes or problems with the assigned work or the operation of the buildings. We have 2 administrative assistants that support our team. They share the same responsibilities, some of which are listed on the screen, and cover each other during absences. But normally they have primary and secondary duties. Students are our biggest stakeholder, and they are the reason we are all here. Another group of stakeholders is staff. The relationships we make with building teams and district teams help support our students and their successes. Community stakeholders include parents, citizens, faith-based organizations, service clubs, nonprofits, businesses, and government agencies. The team spends a lot of time identifying the best way to use our budget. Doing work in-house decreases response time and saves money and usually increases work quality. We have several layers of oversight and a variety of experience and knowledge to evaluate our actions. Our cold weather team and our on-call team also help us save money. Decisions about using outside contractors are based on time requirements, capacity, scope, and external funding. Our goal is to make the best use of our resources based on these requirements. We must maintain our facilities regardless of student counts and occupancy levels. Similarly, we constantly evaluate the needs, timelines, urgency, and impact of work to determine the best use of our labor. Cold weather teams monitor our buildings during times of extreme cold weather. Our on-call staff member is available after hours and on weekends to address emergencies and provide support to our facilities. Maintenance team members have a great deal of experience and represent 14 different trades groups. We work in the buildings we maintain. We see the people who use these facilities every day. These are our facilities, and we take pride in ownership in the work we do. The clearest indication of our success is the longevity of our facilities. They have been well maintained and continue to serve our students, staff, and community. We work with risk management, conduct site walks, and address concerns before they become problems. Each year, additionally, we complete an information and condition of schools, ICOS report, that is sent to OSPI. Staff retention in the 23-24 school year was 96% for the environmental services team and 100% for the maintenance team. Factors that help staff retention are schedules that support work-life balance, job stability, the work environment, proximity to KSD, history with KSD, benefits, opportunity for advancement, and time vested with KSD. Our goal is continuous improvement. Our team is committed to plan, do, study, act. Because of our limited resources, this model is essential for maintaining forward progress. The facilities team uses FMX, a computerized maintenance system, to track and manage our work orders. The FMX system is also used by athletics for facility use. Again, there's a cost savings because we're not having two systems. We have one that we share. We started using the FMX system in May of 2024 and have been adjusting and refining its use and understanding how to use it. This slide is updated from the one that was in your package. Because I got information that was different for the closed work order sections. And this is some of the work that my team helped support me with. I was trying to find that information myself, and I'm not, haven't become super fluent with how it runs yet. So the corrected numbers for this slide for closed work orders for the 24-25 school year so far were 4,571. 1,171 of those work orders were high, 1,449 were medium, and 1,950 were low. For the first 8 weeks of this year, we have closed 1,319 work orders, 277 high work orders, 91 medium work orders, and 951 low work orders. That works out to roughly 19 days closures for highs, 14 days for mediums, and 70 days for lows. That's outside of our goal, but like I said, we're still working with the system, and how things are input determines how things come out. So it's a goal, and we're seeing progress, and we're hoping to get there. Thank you for your time this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Director Clark.
This is a little out of the scope of what you've done. Does the district actually have responsibility for any transformers?
There may be some, I'm trying to think. A lot of times the transformer is the demarcation line between,
Yeah,
PSE and us,
right.
right? We may have, I'm trying to think, there may be a couple of smaller ones that are feeders down the line to an auxiliary building or space, but I think for the most part, they're, they're transition lines for service.
Okay. And the reason I brought that up, there was unfortunately a recent article in the Wall Street Journal that spoke to the fact that transformers are in fact running, the people that manufacture them are running out of the materials to construct, given the aging of the overall body. And it could in fact create a choke point at some future point, and how we might handle that.
Right.
But thank you.
Thank you.
I realize that out of the dark.
Any additional questions out there? No. Just a question on the portable usage. I did just quickly circle the different ones that look like they're being used for classroom space. Gen Ed, health, I don't know if that's a health room or health class, SA, ASC, some PE classes. What is the, are we kind of at a place where we're like, what we have is what we have? Or are we looking to continue to try to move out of these portables, especially for classroom space?
I think our goal as a district is to not have students in portables. We have to balance the size of our buildings with the needs of students. So if we take a smaller building and we add programs to that building, we don't want kindergarten, we don't want ECSE or programs in portables, right? So if we're going to have those programs in the building, we move the upper level kids to portables and try to use the ones closest to the building. That's kind of how it's been, since we made the boundary change. Ultimate goal would be to not have any kids in portables. But one thing I do like that I've seen here, the first bar there is band and orchestra. And I think that's an excellent use of a portable, because it's not a space that's used every day, right? And it doesn't interrupt other things as students are learning to become proficient with their instruments. So I think that's an excellent use of our portables.
I have sat through recorder concerts, and I agree with portable usage on that. So, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate this information and would love to be able to continue. I know it's been probably about a year. I would love to see this continuing on, because I know that we do have a commitment to reduce the amount of portable usage for many different reasons. So thank you for providing that today and your commentary on it.
Thank you.
And sorry, that bringing that up made me think of something that I had a question on. With our portables, are we making sure that we're maintaining them so that if we do need them, that we can bring them back online, and like at any point or what have you?
Yep. No, yes, that is correct, Director Cook. Over the last 2 years, we've gotten rid of older portables that were just, dilapidated, and they were being used for storage and for junk. They just needed to go away. So right now, all the portables we have are in operational condition. We, replace the roofs if they need to be replaced. We make sure the heating systems are working so they don't, grow mushrooms and things. So yes, all of our portables are operational. The ones that aren't being occupied or used, we turn down the HV, turn up the air conditioning and lower the heating, so it's maintained, keeping the building, viable, but, not running at an occupied temperature.
Okay, the reason I had a question on that is that, like, I had heard from someone that there was one that was not receiving heat or something, and so I'll talk to you about it after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate the, I was going to add, before you asked that, Vice President Cook, was the portables that are being used are our best portables. We have portables out there that have reached their life expectancy, and to continue to put dollars into that it's obviously not a good thing. That's why we want to reduce the needs. And then the last other piece is, you see here also some YMCA, our community-based partners, will often use a space that's appropriate, food, clothing, that kind of thing, storage. So, but yeah, I was just thinking about that before you asked that question. Thank you.
Sorry, him bringing that up made me think of something else. But so if that's the case, if we have a portable that is not like it's end of life, right? Are we actively removing those out of the district so that we're not, having a dangerous situation with a portable that is in disrepair?
Yes, if a portable becomes either too expensive to fix or just is not safe, we remove it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cook.
you very much. And we move to our final presentation for the evening, Kent School District Warehouse and Distribution Services. And again, I call upon Superintendent Vela.
Thank you, President Margaret. I'd like to again call up our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Wade Berenshute, to introduce our speaker for our Warehouse and Distribution Services presentation.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vela, Ms. Curry. I am happy to call to the podium to join me, before I hand it over to him, one of our most seasoned veteran employees of the Kent School District, 35 years and counting, in a similar position in the exact same area in the district. So no one has more knowledge, experience, or skills in this area than Rick Hopkins does. So I'd like Rick Hopkins, our Assistant Director of Warehouse and Distribution Services, to join me at the podium for our presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Behringer. President Margell, Board Directors, Superintendent Vela, Ms. Curry. Like I told Dr. Behringer earlier, I have 35 years' experience of warehouse and distribution. I have zero public speaking, so. Let's meet our team. This is I'm very proud of this team. They're small, but they have a lot of experience. This team has 79 years of experience in the Kent School District and 100 years of lifetime experience in the similar field. Daily, these 3 drivers have 67 stops. And that's 16,000 a year. They cover 122 miles in the Kent School District daily, and that's 30,000 miles a year. They're all forklift certified. And kind of a fun fact about this team, they all were working for our nutritional services team prior to coming to our team. This is kind of a snapshot, if you will, a 35-year snapshot from the time I started. As you'll see on the top line, we have an increase of 17 schools since then. You look on the bottom, we've actually built 21, but some of them were replacement schools. That's a 60% increase in schools. You see the student count there increase. The reason I put the city of Kent population in is population is more than doubled, and that affects our drive time on the routes. You don't really think about it, but if you have 44 schools and you lose 2 minutes between schools, you've lost an hour and a half quickly, so mentioned that. And the next 2 line items stood out to me. In 1990, we had 5 drivers covering the distribution for this district, and today we have 3. These are our warehouses. Of course, with the growth of the district, we've had to increase our storage. First picture on the top is our distribution center. That's where my team resides. Our office is there. That's the receiving area. We store IT equipment in there, and also teaching and learning has their materials in there. Both of those teams are in that same building, and they need daily access to those materials. We do have an area in the back set up so they can sort their materials there prior to them being ready for distribution. This building holds 270 pallets in the racking. The next one was originally called the Maintenance Storage Building. Now we call it Building H to match the lettering of our complex. It still does have maintenance storage in it. We also have archive material for the district and secured area. We have inclusive education equipment there also that we take out to the schools. There's also custodial supplies in this building. And it's 470 square feet. I'm sorry, 470 pallet storage. The bottom one is our newest, if you will, most recent storage facility. That's the Kent Pool. It was closed in 2019. And Superintendent Vella was instrumental in deciding on making that a warehouse space, knowing our need, rather than parking lot, which was kind of pushed at the time. This building holds 360 pallets in the racking, and this is our long-term storage, so we don't have to access it as often as the 2 warehouses on the campus. This is not an all-inclusive list of our functions, but I wanted to give you an idea of the variety of supports that we provide. I won't go through all of these. I'd like to just kind of mention a couple of items, like the Cinderella program. That is sponsored by the Kent Area Council, PTSA. It's a volunteer organization, and they provide formal wear for our high school students at no cost for prom and what am I thinking? Oh, prom and homecoming, I'm sorry. When this program started, they just had 2 racks of dresses, and then it went to menswear, semi-formal wear, and formal wear. And now we transport 12 racks of dresses, a full truckload between the schools. So really been happy to support that over the years. Next one I'll mention is the music kit rotation. We rotate music kits between the schools. We have ukuleles, world drums, and keyboards. And we rotate those every quarter so that all of our students have an opportunity for that music instruction. Last one I'll mention is our table and chair support. We have always supported our school functions with tables and chairs. When this program began, we had 30 tables and 200 chairs, and now we support it with 200 tables and 1,000 chairs. And I would like to mention, I did check on rental prices. We had 200 requests in 2024 for tables and chairs, and it would have been just over $75,000 should we have rented those for last year.
Wow.
So it's nice to have that as an in-house support. Challenges and opportunities. I just listed some challenges here. Most of those are just kind of our operational challenges. But I think our biggest challenge is just meeting the timelines. I mentioned increased expectations. As you all know, things have kind of changed in distribution as far as there was a time when you could order something and wouldn't worry if it didn't come for 3 days. Well, now we're on our phone seeing if it's on its way 3 hours later. So that has affected us as far as making sure everything gets out on time. We do have almost, I'd say 95% of our items are next day delivery. So anything that comes into our warehouse, it goes out the next day. Opportunities. I think it takes a few items to be able to have great opportunities. We have to have a great staff, low attrition, safe practices, adequate warehouse space, and reliable equipment. And I feel like we have all those things in place in order to take advantage of opportunities when they come up to give more service to our schools. One other thing I had to mention in opportunities, we joined an operations team with one of our more recent reorganizations, and that team includes transportation, athletics, capital projects, facilities, maintenance, environmental services, distribution services, nutritional services, and safety services. And that has been a real positive for our team. We used to always fall under purchasing or finance, but our fit with operations has been amazing. And there's some really exciting things happening there. We're all starting an operations manual or updating our operations manuals. And I know that's going to be invaluable down the road. Measuring success. Of course, we're not a private business where profit would probably be the number one line up here. I think our relationships with the schools is important. Our customer service is important. And as far as measuring success, I think the fact that we've been able to absorb the growth of this district over this period of time without adding staff, certainly a measure of success in that area. And to monitor customer complaints from the schools. We have sent out surveys before to get some feedback there, and we're going to do that again. Key performance indicators, I just mentioned that because that's an area I want to get a little deeper into this next year. As far as the turnover in our warehouses, how many of those pallets have been sitting for a year or more, or 3 years or more, and make sure that we have everything in the right warehouses to be efficient. That's the end of my presentation. Willing to answer any questions you might have.
Not a question, but to speak to both you, Rick, and Gordon also. The work that your people do keeps us going forward. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to point out, like I volunteered with the dresses project, the Cinderella project that we have there, and it's honestly fantastic. It's so great that we're able to move it from school to school, allow the students to choose a dress, and now keep it if they so choose even, because of the enormous amount of donations that we've received from our community, which is just fantastic. So I just want to applaud that. It's a great program.
Totally agree.
Comment first, the tenure of your team is impressive. And having the opportunity to go to a lot of different events and how heavy wrestling mats are. And I just thank you so much for, it's those things that you show up and it just is there. And so I guess you get to be the magic of KSD, of it just is there. Question about the beginning of school. So you have 44 schools. Every single school has new books, all the stuff that goes out. If you had a magic wand, what would make it easier for your department to make sure that every school, every classroom, every grade level got everything that they needed on time?
Add one more employee,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We don't have any problem completing all these things. It's just the timeline sometimes is
Sure.
problematic. And we love the work, so that part's not a problem, but I really do think one more employee would make a big difference.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You can tell that the people who are in there really like working there. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted just to take a moment just to thank Rick and his comment about 35 years and this is zero experience in public speaking. I think he did an excellent job, and I actually was kidding with him that I think I'm going to have him do all presentations here moving forward. So, no, thank you, Rick. Appreciate that work you do and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
All right.
Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Cook, we appreciate your time and learning a little bit more about the intricacies of what our district does.
Well, one last thing. I would like to invite all the board to come tour our warehouses anytime and also take a ride on the trucks and run a route with us. I think you'd enjoy it. Might
I've
want to wait
not
till the
ridden
weather's
a
a little
route.
nicer, but
I did see the former pool, which that's how it'll always be referred to. But it is a good use of the space, and it has transformed dramatically.
just so you know, I was not involved until after that decision was made.
You can stay on the good list. I've been informed by Superintendent Vella that we have no pool.
There's no.
Thank you very much. And we are now on to section 4.0, preliminary comments from the audience.
Ms. Santello.
I'm well aware.
President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. We did receive one online video comment that will be heard in the first 30 minutes. We did receive one online video comment that will be heard at item 8.04 on the consent agenda. And I do have here a card for an in-person comment to be heard also in the first 30 minutes.
Our first speaker tonight is Dan Rosea.
Hello, my name is Dan Rosaya. I serve the students at Martin Luther King Elementary as an IP paraeducator and serve the over 700 full-time and substitute paraeducators as the president of the Kent Association of Paraeducators. That said, tonight I wish to speak to each of you simply as a fellow educator and member of the Kent community. We're 2 days away from the deadline that the Department of Education placed on all school districts to remove hiring and programming policies which fall under the moniker of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those behind the efforts to vilify and eliminate DEI use the term as a dog whistle for white dudes like me. Well, almost like me. As a public school paraeducator, my sense of wealth is best not measured in financial terms. State Superintendent Chris Reichtel earlier provided clear and powerful arguments pushing against the DOE's order, and I can't offer a stronger refute than his. I know with the support of our state superintendent and since the guiding mission for the Kent School District is centered on the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm confident that this district will not alter any immediate DEI policies or practices. But given the multitude of diverse experiences, languages, cultures, abilities, and identities that make up the greater KSD community, more should be done than simply staying the course. I'm here to encourage this board and this district, our district, to take a step in boldness and intentionality to declare that KSD and its community holds to the following truths. The societal strength does not come from homogeneous compliance or assimilation, but by welcoming and inviting the diverse voices, stories, experiences, viewpoints, and ideas from every aspect of our communities. That a community's success is not measured by the extent in which a few privileged individuals thrive, but through the equitable efforts and actions that refuses to allow a single person to be denied or limited in their agency or abilities. And that a nation's greatness will never arrive when the voices of those who have always been in a position of power and privilege continue to dictate the path forward, but rather when those in power and authority to do so ensure that the table of discourse always has a spare seat for the underheard and the underrepresented to be included. I know these are turbulent times, and it's understandable for any of us to be drawn towards keeping a low profile. But I urge you, for the voices of our students, our fellow educators, and our neighbors who thankfully do not all look like me, now is the time to be bold. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next is an online video general comment.
Hi, I'm Todd Miner. I'm the father of these fantastic 4 kids in front of me. One has already graduated the Kent School District, so these are my 4 that are left. Mackenzie, who's at Matson Middle School, and then my 3 little ones. Madison, Todd Jr., and Anson Joshua, all at Horizon Elementary School. And what a fantastic school. Great principal, great staff, awesome teachers. I attended a parent-teacher conference earlier this week, and I will tell you I was super sad. The rooms and the climate in that school were super cold. Even though the thermostat said 70 degrees, there was no way it was 70 degrees in those rooms. It was cold. It was unbearably cold. And I did a bunch of research, and I recognized that there was an initiative to make sure that there was fresh air circulated in those classrooms, especially during the winter months. And while I understand that, that fresh air came in from outside. It was untreated and unheated, and it brought in frigid temperature air from outside and pumped it in the classroom. 15, 20, 30-degree air getting pumped into the classroom that made the classroom unbearably cold. Teachers talked about how their fingers were numb. Students had to put on their hoodies and hats and mittens inside of a classroom in Kent School District. I immediately took action. I emailed all of the elected officials that are represented here today. I also reached out to the mayor of Kent, the city council of Kent. I reached out to Olympia, the governor, the superintendent of state education. I started the process to reach out to my contacts in Washington, D.C., to reach out to all my contacts in the press. I reached out to the teachers' unions, and this affected the teachers as well. Finally, yesterday, I got a call from the superintendent. I think it's very, very productive. I think we talked about some solutions that could take effect in the near term and then also long-term solutions that are required to address systemic issues. I want to thank the one school board member that finally reached out to me, broke the protocol, because he just knew that something wasn't right. Sorry I don't have your name handy, but you know who you are, and I want to thank you. For the rest of the school board members, you got to do better. You got to act faster. You got to have more conviction for our kids. And I just want to thank those folks, whether it be on Facebook, whether you sent me messages anonymously about all the different experiences that you had in the Kent School District with heating and air conditioning. Look, we can do better together if we're transparent. So I want to thank you for the time, and I want to let you know that it took an incredible amount of effort, time, and passion of mine to be able to just get a short-term decision, a short-term solution, rather. And I look forward to working with the school district, not just for these 4 kids illustrated in front of me, but the thousands of kids that go to Kent School every day.
Our next section is 5.0, the superintendent report. Superintendent Vella.
Thank you, President Markell. This evening, I'd like to share a few shout-outs and then some informational invitations I'd like to put out. So I want to start, first of all, by welcoming our newest Board of Directors, Teresa Gregory, having her join us tonight for her first whole full board meeting. So welcome. I also want to thank our team that spent time this week for getting her district equipment, access to other types of things, onboarding, a number of things I know she knows well, and we're still doing it. So I want to thank the team for that and working to ensure a very smooth transition, as smooth as we can make possible. And this week she'll also be joining me on a couple of school visits. I'm excited about that. I'd also like to give a shout out here to our Kent Area PTA Reflections team, specifically Ms. Kim Wells. I had the opportunity, I believe it was on Monday night, to attend the Kent Area PTA Council Reflections Cultural Arts Competition reception. We held that at Kent Wood High School for the first time. It needed more space. The reason for that, they actually doubled the number of entries they had. I believe we had over 70 entries, I think it was 74, from 18 different schools, so pretty close to doubling it what we had last year. Had the opportunity to be a part of the theme, Accepting Imperfections, and students submitted entries for the visual arts, photography, literature, music, composition, dance, choreography, and film production. Congrats to those students. Community and Schools of South King County Breakfast for Kids. This is the invite I mentioned. I'd like to invite you all to a breakfast that'll be held on March 14th at Cannon Ridge Elementary. Registration's open, and I encourage you to come find out a little bit more about our Community and Schools partnership that's been around for a long time and continues to grow in supporting our kids. They are a community-based partner. They work with our schools directly, students directly, and even our families in support of KSD priority initiatives. They coordinate intensive interventions at times for kids that are most at risk for dropping out, while also providing services to the entire school community. They partner with other community service agencies to connect our students and families with any needed resources, including mentoring, academic help, tutoring, college preparation, and also helping students overcome any other barriers to success that they might encounter. If you have not had that opportunity to really hear what all community schools is about, please join us at KSD on March 14th. I'd like to encourage you to do that. I'd like to also give a shout out to our program called Grow Your Own. It continues to provide alternative routes for current staff to achieve teaching certificates. The 7th cohort of teachers participating in Grow Your Own are currently working to complete their student teaching. The program anticipates 21 KSD employees that will graduate with their teacher certification at the end of May. Give you a little data there. Since 2018, 100 teachers in hard-to-fill areas have graduated from this program. I congratulate our professional development staff and our HR team for their continued efforts to build these partnerships with colleges, universities, labor partners, and also providing them these opportunities. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend the Teacher of the Year award at Scenic Hill. I congratulate Marisabel Curtis, who is a graduate of our Grow Your Own program, as a matter of fact, for being named the Kent School District Teacher of the Year. I want to thank Director Clark for joining me, as well as members from our HR staff, our KEA leaders, and Scenic Hill leadership team and staff, who all were present. You'll be hearing more about her in the coming weeks, but Ms. Curtis exemplifies the mission, vision, values, and goals of the Kent School District. Again, congratulations to all, and I look forward to having her here to be honored for her work. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Vela. Our next section is our legislative update. At this time, all remaining comment cards need to be turned into the blue box. Give anybody the opportunity to be able to get that in. Okay. Director Clark.
Thank you. The report's coming up on the screen.
Perfect.
Okay, and you'll notice just a subnote, as you know, the legislature runs on a very strict schedule. And so the fiscal committee cutoff is February 28th. Out of committee was last Friday. And, we'll have another date that will be coming up. But I mention those dates because if it doesn't make it out of the House or the Senate, as the case may be, then it supposedly hangs until the following session next year. Anyway, go ahead. All right, things still in play. Yes, the joint resolution to amend the state constitution for reducing the percentage on bond votes is still alive. But as I mournfully pointed out, don't lose any sleep on it, because until the voters choose to amend the Constitution, nothing has changed. All right, other bills that are alive, as you know, we have the big three that the superintendents and the school directors have been cooperating on to try and get a smaller package but more directed funding. And so the joint bills to deal in transportation with their standard busing formula, which is called the STARS formula, is still alive. So at least it's in play. All right, other things under consideration. Now, I bring this up, when you first hear it, you're gonna flinch, right? Financial literacy and digital literacy are separate items that have been under discussion as requirements for graduation. And of course, immediately, everybody that has to deal with graduation credits flinches. But the reality is they recognize they could not do that across the state. And so what they really have done is start to hold discussions with OSPI to literally say, look, if you really want that, then we should be blending it in younger grade levels to actually substantiate that they have the background, not leave it till graduation. And so at least that's been kicked to OSPI. Senate Bill 5186 is about impact fees for builders. And I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Vela because he has a little more recent news.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Director Clark, and to our board. On Monday, the Senate Ways and Means Committees will be hearing those two bills that relate to actually lowering the threshold for bond passages. And that will help not only Kent School District, but a lot of districts from around the state. And then specifically relating these bills that we are talking about, there's also a discussion regarding eliminating those impact fees paid to school districts in exchange for approving the simple majority on the bonds. And it's kind of a package deal that voters will need to approve the entire concept, if you will. For Kent, given our flat enrollment and our pockets, I would say, of housing and construction, this would greatly be in support for us moving forward for our bonds, specifically in 2028.
Okay, thank you. Next. All right, so of those, one of those other big three pathways is the MSOC, materials, supplies, operations, and whatnot. And those two bills, Senate Bill 5192 and House Bill 1338, are identical. So they have had these internal discussions and they're moving forward. It was interesting to learn they would add to state allocation to close school district gaps based on true operating costs versus what the state provides. The short version is they were raising the funding to try and meet some of the needs that we were talking. Anyway, so I'll have a closing comment on the next one, and you'll get the picture. All right, the big money is special education, and once again, the Senate Bill 5263 and House Bill 1310 are identical. Now, you'll recall we've had this discussion in special ed when we went down to lobby, and specifically, we wanted them to eliminate the cap on how many students can you actually have in the program. And fortunately, these bills would advance that. We asked to decrease the safety net threshold so more kids could be included in that coverage. And in fact, there's a motion in the bill to actually do that. Now, the other thing that was more fascinating, when you go to qualify special ed kids, there are different tiers, tiers 1 and 2, and that's about how much classroom time students are actually being included in it. But they use different multipliers, and so if you have a cap and then you have all these other conditions, the question is, do you have enough to meet the specified needs of the student's plan? And the cold reality is that's not even close. So they actually did finally come back and say, all right, we are going to use one multiplier all the way through the tiering so that it is more closely reflects the cost. Okay, one more. All right. So Senator Wellman in the State Senate has been on the Senate K through 12 Education Committee forever. And the nice thing about it is she takes the job because she cares very much, and she does know where the money is going. And so she made a comment in a presentation to the ledge reps, and it was, state and federal duty is to fully fund state basic services. Costs should not prohibit these services being readily available. And so hence the much more enriched money in obviously special ed bills to go forward. The problem is, of course, the Democrats that do dominate the state legislature in both houses declared that there is a $12 billion shortfall. Okay, now the reason I bring that up is keep in mind what we were originally talking about. We're asking for increased funding for the big three, and now you're looking at that shortfall. Now, the really grim part of it that bothers me a great deal is one of the biggest things they're trying to address is homelessness. Now, there isn't an urban community that doesn't suffer from that throughout the state, and nobody has a perfect plan to try and deal with that. And obviously, they have been working in partnerships with cities and regional groups to try and come up with plans for their immediate communities, trying to deal with that. But unfortunately, in the game of politics, it's always about priorities. And the way you can tell it's a priority is when the money is committed. And so there's a March 12th House of Origin cutoff date coming, and at that point, if it isn't alive at that point, you're not going to see it. Oh, except for that one other flaw in the system, and that's where if it shows up in the budget that they have enough money, a bill that has died can suddenly be brought back to life. Now, unfortunately, with that $12 billion shortfall, I'm safe to say, if you've never really considered it, in the state legislature, they have to have the annual budget, it has to balance. And it's over 40% is K through 12 spending. It's the single biggest item in the state budget. Now, the fact is, if they don't have the money, the numbers change in the bills that you have just seen. And that's where the problem lies. And to put it much more bluntly, remember March is when they get the state fiscal forecast of what will be the revenue for the upcoming 12 months. And that's when the dollar figures become real, and now we start plugging it into the formulas. So we're down to a month to really look at serious money. Thank you very much.
Dr. Clark, thank you very much. I feel, one, like I'm in civics class again, and two, thankful for that. I appreciate it. We are now to our 7.0 discussion and approval. Is there a motion on the floor?
I would move approval of 701 gifts.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded for approval of item 7.01, gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance. We are now open for discussion.
I'd just like to acknowledge the people that have made special efforts to try and improve different schools and what they are doing in their various activities. But this first one really was a showstopper for me. It was a gift from Microsoft to the Kent School District Technology Support Services of a Surface Laptop 7 for the evaluation of the new AI enhanced processor. And I mention that, as you know, the outside investment coming all the way through all the large technology companies obviously is showing up in the educational facilities. And that one was good for just shy of $1,500. Thank you, Microsoft. Kent Ridge High School, the Kent Area Judo Association sent $500 to support judo club activities and programming in that school. The Cedar Valley Elementary received from McDonald's gifts, and actually I'm sure it was food, of cash value of $783 for the general support of the associated student body. And Kent Laboratory Academy got from Washington DECA $1,240 for conference registration and hotel expenses, obviously for DECA activities. So thank you very much for those gifts.
I would actually guess that McDonald's is the nights when you go and support your school by getting dinner there, and then they give money back to the schools. So
Yes.
thank you to our many parents and families that also helped that night by eating their favorite meal at McDonald's. Any other discussion? Seeing as there is none, there's a motion on the floor for acceptance of item 7.01, gifts, donations, and/or memorials acceptance. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve second reading and approval of policy 2110, transitional bilingual instruction program 7.02.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.02, second reading and approval of policy 2110, transitional bilingual instruction program. We are now open for discussion.
Can we just get a, just a basic overview of why this is being changed?
I'll have Ms. Holly come on up.
Good evening, President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, and Ms. Curry. There were some updates to this. It added things in like student eligibility had to be determined by the 10th day of attendance. Annual assessment by means of state-approved test needed to be given. We made a language statement that we're highly committed to ensuring an equal educational opportunity for every student. I'm trying to see what else is in here that changed. Annually, the Board of Directors will approve the district's transitional bilingual instructional program. So those were the changes to the policy. Now, there have been several updates from WASDA, but we haven't updated for many years, I think since 2007.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Seeing no further discussion, a motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 7.02, second reading and approval of policy 2110, transitional bilingual instruction program. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move approval of 703, second reading and approval of policy 3220, freedom of expression.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.03, second reading and approval of policy 3220, freedom of expression. We are now open for discussion.
Again, for the audience, if you're unaware, we've had hours of discussion on all of these, which is why we don't tend to dwell on it, because you could have seen that from the actual workshops. But this one, of course, in these political times is important that it basically sequences with state law, and we are doing that.
I did have a question on one section towards the end, I believe. It states that that we would not allow for a student to, do something that would substantially disrupt the school. The only thing I worry about on that is, if we had, say, a student walkout or something like that, and there was a leader of that, are we going to be looking to punish that student for them choosing to use their freedom of expression?
Yeah, no, I think during the work session, we talked about students not losing their First Amendment rights at the threshold of the school board, of a school. And we also talked about how our secondary principals in particular do a great job of knowing when there is going to be either a sit-in or a walkout. And we actually join hands with our student groups to do that. And many times we'll hear ahead of time, so we actually work with them during those times, so they would not be.
That's great. That's all I really wanted to know, because I support that wholeheartedly, and I want to make sure our students, staff, and community know that we support freedom of expression, and if they feel the need to do so, that's something that our board as well as the district is going to stand behind.
The board has been clear for the since our development of our strategic plan, student voice is critical to their success.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments, the motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.03, second reading and approval of policy 3220, freedom of expression. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve second.
I was going to do it. I make a motion to approve 704, second reading and approval of policy 3520, so 3520, student fees, fines, or charges.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.04, second reading and approval of policy 3520, student fees, fines, or charges. We are now open for discussion.
I had a question on the end part of this one as well. One of the things that it states in there that was removed is the appeal language. So if a family wanted to appeal a decision of some sort, that I didn't see another place where that was put in there. So are they still able to do so?
Yes, the procedure is where I believe it is, where the appeal process is.
Okay. And what was the purpose of taking it out of the policy but keeping it in the procedure?
I think the update was from Mwaza, if I'm not mistaken, that they had cleaned up a policy versus a procedure and put that as a procedure to follow.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 704, second reading and approval, policy 3520, student fees, fines, or charges. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
He said aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve 7.05, second reading and approval of policy 5240, evaluation of staff.
I second.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.05, second reading and approval of policy 5240, evaluation of staff. We are now open for discussion.
I saw at the bottom of this, I guess each one had stuff at the bottom. I don't know why that is, that I had questions on. But it removed the 360 evaluation. Is that because we're no longer using that system or something?
I think if you look at, they struck a lot of things. The key piece is that the evaluation needs to be in alignment with CBA language as it relates to evaluations. I think that's the main thing. 360s are not within, at least I know the CBA's, it's not one that's used for that.
I see. That makes sense. I was just curious because, I know that's something that some people want, to be
Yeah.
able to look back and see what it is.
It doesn't preclude them from utilizing
it.
it if they wanted to.
I see.
And many times, that's what happens.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, a motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 7.05, second reading and approval of policy 5240, evaluation of staff. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. We now move on to our consent agenda. Is there any items that anybody would like to pull, knowing that 8.04 is already being pulled?
Okay.
I would also like to pull 8.03, 8.05, 8.06, and 8.07.
I second.
Don't need a second
I'm
these
sorry,
ones.
you're
Nope,
right.
that's all right. But we will get there in just a second. So right now we have items 3 through 7 pulled. Are we good with rest? Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve items 801, 802, and 808 through 813.
Is there a
Oh,
second?
I had one other one, sorry. Can we also pull,
Can we finish?
Sure.
So let's second this one, we can vote it down, and then we can add another one to do it, so we
Thank
can
you.
stay clear. Is there a second on the floor?
I second.
The motion's been made and seconded for approval of consent agenda items 8.01, 8.02, and 8.08 through 8.13. We are now open for discussion.
yeah, I just wanted to pull 8.12 as well.
802.
8.12.
Oh, all right. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, great. Do we need to vote on the amendment? Okay. A amendment has been made to approve the consent agenda items 8.01, 8.02, 8.08, 8.09, 8.1, 8.11, 8.13. Is there a second on the floor?
Second.
Great. We're now open for discussion. Seeing as none, there's a motion on the floor for approving consent agenda items 801, 802, 808, 809, 810, 811, and 813. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve item 8.03, Kent Ridge High School D-Wing Remodel Project Change Order Number 2.
I second.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 8.03, Kent Ridge High School D-Wing Remodel Project Change Order Number 2. We are now open for discussion.
So the only question I really had on this, I just wanted to make sure that we explained why we're going up in cost again here. This is another project that we had from our, I believe, 2018 bond. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll have Mr. Brett Scribner, our Assistant Director of Capital Planning, come up and explain that. Thank you.
Hello, President
Director-
Margell.
Give me just one moment, I'm
members of the
sorry.
board.
Director Song, could you possibly mute yourself? Thank you very much. Sorry about that. We just got a little background noise. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
President Margell, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, Ms. Curry. I believe your question is about the change orders on this project. Well, as you know, construction often comes with unforeseen conditions. And for this particular change order, we uncovered some abandoned ductwork that had been left in the ceiling of the building prior to our work commencing. And and through the design, we also have incurred additional rebar that needed to be put into the retaining wall. This was found upon inspection and was added to the project as a necessity for the bearing pressures that wall is going to receive. The door hardware modifications were just very minor in details. And there was a few roller shades that were missed on the initial design that needed to be added into the project. I guess your question about, where these change orders come from, I will daylight that there is one more change order coming, and it includes additional plumbing work that had to be done in order to make that system work for the school. Do you have any other additional questions to that?
Just one. If we're already going to be changing it, why not do it all at once after we get both? Or is it because we're trying to get this done more quickly or something?
Yeah, there's been costs incurred by the subcontractors.
I see.
And they legally can go after us now if we don't pay within 4 weeks.
I see.
So, we have a process we have to follow, and we kind of, we try to itemize the change orders into one package, but a lot of times we have to just run with the package we have and then while we gather more information for other changes.
I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to point out, it was great seeing the facilities today, and, Kent Ridge is a 57-year-old school, and it's been nearly 25 years since we've really done any improvements, and that was adding the 9th grade, the extra wing on the east wing now. And so I'm glad, especially with the student voice talking about the importance of arts and feeling safe, and making that is one of our, and that being one of our strategic goals is the environmental safety of our students. I love that we are really investing in bringing the school a little bit of a facelift, and then also investing in that area.
Yeah, with the plumbing, there was a little bit of a delay on the construction, but we are up and running, and there's a lot of trades on site right now, trying to get back on track. So
Great.
It's going to be a wonderful addition to the school.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, there is a motion on the floor for approval of item 8.03, Kent Ridge High School D-Wing Remodel Project Change Order Number 2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, do you want to go to 804 now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll move 804, new flexible program space added project to 2018 capital levy.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 8.04, new flexible program space added project to 2018 capital levy. We will take the public comment first, and then we will open it up for board comment. Okay.
Good evening, board members. My name is Joe Riley, and I'm here to discuss agenda item 8.04, new flexible program space added project 2018 capital levy. When the board rejected the iGrad renovation bid last June, the future of the program was left open-ended, with the board stating that they wanted to hear more options about moving forward. As far as I know, that has not happened, at least not publicly. Since then, enrollment at iGrad has been capped, and as I understand it, is now at capacity. Students are being turned away from the program. The building that was supposed to house iGrad is now being renovated to something else, and there is still no public plan for the future of iGrad. As it appears the green building will not be used for iGrad, and given its proximity to TOP, it seems like it could be a great option for that program. But similar to iGrad, there hasn't been a public presentation on TOP or its needs. What exactly does TOP need, and how exactly will this renovation solve those needs? Will it have a gymnasium now that they can't utilize the one at Canyon Ridge? Will it hold classrooms? Will students have to walk back and forth between the buildings, or will they be siloed? The previous floor plan was specifically designed for iGrad and even included requests from iGrad staff. So have we created a new floor plan to specifically meet the needs of TOP? Or are we assuming that iGrad's floor plan will be generic enough to work for anyone? Have any TOP staff been involved in deciding what goes into the renovation? Or is it the capital team deciding it entirely on their own? Furthermore, this renovation isn't even TOP specific. It's a generic, flexible program space that TOP will happen to use first. If we are expecting TOP to only use this space temporarily, then do we have a plan to move them somewhere else next? Why are we attempting to make this a reusable space instead of just dedicating it entirely to TOP? Furthermore, the proposed project scope has been reduced to remove some of the larger costs of asphalt, portables, and the moving of tech boards from iGrad. The agenda item itself even states that the scope was, quote, significantly reduced from the original concept. But why are these costs no longer needed? Does TOP or any flexible program utilizing the space not need a resurfaced parking lot with available parking? Do they not use any tech boards that would need to be installed? What happens if the district adds a new portable after the initial budgeted scope like they did with the iGrad renovation? I have so many more questions, and there is no way that they will all be answered tonight. Table this proposal, call a work session, and have the district explain the plans for both iGrad and TOP. Then you can come back and vote to approve a transparent proposal for both programs. Start fulfilling your promises of transparency and show the community that their feedback is meaningful. Anything less is a gross disservice to all of these programs, their staff, and the students. Thank you.
We are now open for discussion. Yes.
Superintendent Bell, there is so much I get disturbed about as we have had much deeper discussions on that. Would you clarify where we came to the plan that we're currently implementing?
Yes, so for the board purpose, the original purpose was for iGrad movement. Recall, it was a program. We had a work session with iGrad, with actually their staff and their leadership, in saying, let's work on the program in more than just the space, because that's really what we would have to do in either one of the spaces regardless. And that's what the team did. So there is no plan to move iGrad at this time. That's what we said. It would stay where it's at. That was the first piece. But it would stay with the means they have to support the kids and the full focus of iGrad. Recall, it was open doors and those pieces. So that's that piece. As it relates to this piece, the board has already approved X amount of dollars for that space. We purchased it. It is a flexible space, as you can see, and the purpose really is just that. TOP is a school that's next door. TOP serves students not just to 22, age 22, through age 22. That's a recent change that if we were able to move to a bond, we would actually increase the size of the current space. The flexible space will allow us a number of things to be able to do there, and that's what this specific consent agenda item is. I'll let Mr. Scribner talk a little bit more about just the space itself, but Dr. Behrens could talk more about programming as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we were confronted with the task of looking at utilizing the space as flexible program use, we went back to the architect who had initially put forth the design for iGrad, and we basically simplified that, looking at it as how can we use this building or put this building to use for the district, for our current needs, without spending a whole lot of money on it. And that's where we significantly reduced the scope of the initial remodel. So we're left really with just putting data services in, communication, security, and implementing some of our district standards and bringing places such as the restrooms up to code compliance.
And then Dr. Behringer, if you want to add a little bit more about the program piece that I may have missed.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Bella. So working with TOP, as Superintendent Bella already alluded to, the fact that the program has changed to include or allow students to continue their education past the age of 21, which increased the number of students that we're serving at TOP this particular school year and obviously into the future as well. So as you'll remember, a year ago, we bought the white building that used to serve as a chiropractic office right across the street from the current green building that we're talking about for TOP to be able to utilize. And they are utilizing that space. It's just not as useful as a space as some of the needs of our TOP students and staff need to have access to. So when we transitioned iGrad back into their building, and then they chose as a administrative and staff to cap their enrollment. And we started to focus again on supporting iGrad and the iGrad students and the repurposing of the student profile of our iGrad students. We then had a vacant building. When you own property and you own a building and you own a space, it really becomes fiscally irresponsible after a certain period of time if you're not utilizing that space. And so because there is a need at top for more space, there were some initial conversations. I can't say that Sue Whitehall sat down and wrote up the architectural design for that building because it is being presented as a flexible space. But there were conversations on a high level around the needs that top students and staff could benefit from a flexible space, which allowed Brett, the conversation with the architect from the previous design, to modify this green building design to meet the needs of not only the district in a flexible way, but also top students and programming in that space for as long as they need that space. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Talking to Brett earlier this morning around this particular 8.4 item, we were discussing the impact of this particular item moving forward, and the fact that bringing this to you today, we understand that there may be some questions and what does this all look like. In the end, whether you approve this tonight or you approve it 2 weeks from now or you approve it a month from now, being able to move forward and create this space for the district and our students and recognizing the need for our students is important and something that we should do. Again, like I said, whether you do it this evening or you do it in the future, it's important that we're utilizing our spaces that we own to the best of our ability, and we're responsible stewards of our funds that our taxpayers have voted on. So I'll leave it at that. Other questions?
Yes. I have several concerns about this one. First, there was a comment made, and I don't even remember who it was, that, a reasonable price. I still would say $738,000 is not insignificant. And so I just want to make sure that that's said. Top programming change is a long-term change, and love that we're being able to serve students now up to the precipice of, of their 23rd birthday. But that's a long-term change that we're trying to use a short-term solution to do. And what we haven't had the opportunity to hear is we're saying that we want a flexible space, but flexible for what? And so it doesn't matter if it's flexible if it's not for something else that we really need. And so we haven't had the opportunity to hear kind of that thought process that's gone into, here are the different needs that we have. Here's a building that could be utilized, and it fits it perfectly. Yeah. And I don't know if it does, to be honest. What I do feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm being so blunt in this, is that we have sunk costs. But what we don't want to do is continue putting more money into something that we've already paid for if it's not the right thing. So what I would prefer to see is maybe this is exactly the right solution that we have, but can we go through the thought process of here are the different things that we're trying to get to, here's what we have available to us, these are the things that we know, we have this amount of money, what we don't know is a bond, maybe not in the future, and would this be included in it, and what that time frame is and what the cost options are within this and how it best meets those different opportunities. And I'm just feeling like tonight, while this may have already been done and probably has been, I just haven't seen the opportunity to go through that with you.
President Margell, I think you bring up great points. I hear you. Just like it's not like I'm not hearing community member Riley as well in his statements. As Israel alluded to earlier, in an ideal situation, the top building would be bigger than it currently is.
Absolutely.
If we, I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, that we would have some sort of additional building space on the 2028 bond that would address top and that would remove them eventually from this flexible space. They would be able to benefit from some additional spaces again, even if it's just 2 or 3 classrooms, them having access to space to spread out a little bit more is beneficial to the program. Now, to your point of, $738,000 is not insignificant. There's no doubt. And when you start to think about this 3,000 plus square foot building that's built in 1979, that we're looking at spending, $750,000 on to just get it to a standard of a space that we can utilize, I understand that. And which is why I think it's important, and that's why we do this work, and that's why we bring this to you, so board members can have a conversation and we can make wise decisions. In no way do we expect every single time we show up on the agenda that everything is going to work perfectly in our way, in our favor. So that's why these discussions are important. The other piece of your question around what might the other space be used for, the way that the building is currently designed, there's an opportunity to take out some walls and create some usable classroom spaces for TOP to be able to use, and potentially split that building maybe 2/3 to 1/3, and then create a large meeting space as well that could be utilized when you have groups, whether they be at district office or district level meetings, that you're looking for a space where you can house 40 or 50 people. They're always looking for bigger spaces, because right now on Central Office Campus, outside of the boardroom, you may be able to pack 40 to 50 people in the Mount Adams room, but outside of that, they don't exist. And so trying to create a space that could be usable for that as well. Now, is all of that worth $738,000? That's not for me to decide. Our job is to present an opportunity right now in a space that we are currently not utilizing at all. And again, as there are options, there are conversations to be had. Brett may be able to add some additional information. You guys have the narrative right here. It kind of breaks down where that money, how that money would be used. But we're open to conversation and discussion.
Oh, and I appreciate that. You're doing exactly what you had promised to do, is bring back ideas to us when we rejected the other idea earlier. So I absolutely appreciate that. I look forward to our community wanting us to delay to maybe look at some bigger options, and then hopefully helping us fund those bigger options. Because I know that there's bigger things that we want to do for our kids.
Absolutely.
I was wondering, kind of to the point of the commenter, is there a reason why we aren't meeting with the community to discuss this? I know we talked earlier about not having had a work session today, not having had a work session last week. Couldn't we have done that during that time if it's imperative that it gets done tonight? And if it's not imperative that it gets done tonight, could we push this out? Is that going to cause some sort of problem?
Vice President Cook, I think that's kind of what I alluded to, is that it's completely up to you. We're sharing this information. If there are enough questions or concerns that we want to take this into a different discussion or a different format, that's something we can do. Again, in the end, we're not going to be able to do the work until it's approved by the board anyhow. And so it's important that the board supports whatever it is that we choose to do moving forward. So there's not this question or this lingering cloud over your head going, oh, should we have done that? I think it's important that the board owns the decisions that they make. And if there's a need for additional questions or conversations, then we need to create space for that.
If I could just add a couple of things, kind of the big picture, really for Director Gregory. The space that we're talking about actually is a space where Canyon Ridge is right now. There are a number of facilities, so it's the white building, the green building, we were calling it. There's also space and land we've been looking at to purchase. So a long-term plan, and originally was, let's get all of that for KSD, because that would provide us opportunity both long-term for additional programming down the line, expansion of programming, et cetera, et cetera. Where we are right now is those buildings came at different times, and the board acted appropriately, I thought, to let's access them, because that space was used. We are using it for TOP, the green building, for parking and a number of other things. So the need is there for that. So I wanted to share from a big picture, that's really our goal, is hopefully to purchase that other area so we can think about a larger picture. Short term, I wanted to add these ideas for the board's consideration around flexible space and usage of buildings. And that is, one of the things we do know is that early learning sections, they'll call them for preschool, Head Start, ECAP number, we don't, across the state, and I would argue across the country, do not have enough sections for early learning. And we've done a great job with the board in creating the KVL space to where our Bezos, and now we had one of our partners doing that. This is also a potential for that. So a short-term and long-term type of look at where we are, hence the flexible spending so that we can utilize it currently and still be thinking long-term, just for the board's consideration.
Is there like something that's detrimental by us pushing this off for a couple weeks so we can do a meeting with our community?
At this moment, I don't think that would be an issue, being that there aren't any, the building itself is not actively being used. So if it was decided that we do move forward with a plan, taking some more time in that development would not affect the bid process or the work getting done for that matter.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
And just to be clear, the items that we did have tonight for our work session were all presented tonight during our main session. So that didn't.
I do have one comment or question. When we do have a work session, can we get the numbers for the projection on the new TOP program, how many students and what that number is? Because I don't think, because that's such a recent change, we don't have that, and I don't think that probably was in the original plan. So it'd be nice to see what that projection looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely do that, Director Gregory. And in fact, if there is a decision down the line to have a work session around this particular building space and the flexible use, that being part of like a top expansion in the interim, we would probably also ask Susan Whitehall, who's the principal of TOP, to be a part of that conversation.
Yes.
So she can express, one, the benefits of that particular space, how she and the students would utilize that space, the importance of that for her program, so on and so forth.
I wanted to add, Director Gregory, that we actually do have a presentation, not scheduled yet, but slated to be presented on TOP.
Yes.
It just, it's to be determined on the time you just have. Yeah.
Any other discussion from the board? Seeing as none, there's a motion on the floor for approval of item number 8.0 I'm sorry, let me restate that. There's a motion on the floor for approval of item 8.04, new flexible program space added project to 2018 capital levy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please raise your right hand and say nay.
Nay.
The motion fails 2-3. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve item, 8.05, Kent Meridian High School Fast Pitch Title IX Compliance Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy.
Second.
Sorry.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 8.05, Kent Meridian High School Fast Pitch Title IX Compliance Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy. We are now open for discussion.
All right, so the question I had on this is essentially, I just want to make sure that our other high schools, like, are all of them already set up for this, and it was just Kent Meridian for some reason that didn't have it? Or is it something that we're going to be doing this across all of them, or do all of our teams play at this same place, I guess?
We'll start with the first question on the all schools with Mr. Scribner.
Yeah, so not all of our schools have lighting at all of our fields. I believe that Kentwood has lighting at their football field, but not at the fast pitch or the baseball, where Kent Lake, I believe, has lights at their fast pitch baseball and football fields. Kent Meridian, obviously French Field has lighting. The boys' baseball field has lighting, and the girls' fast pitch does not. And that is where the non-compliance for Title IX comes into play.
I see. Is there any concern that because we are doing this at one school and that there are other schools that don't have it, that that's going to end up causing us issues in the future?
As we transition to synthetic fields, we do want to utilize the fields as much time as we can throughout the day and night. So it is a standard going forward to put lighting in our fields. We are currently working with the City of Kent, similar to how we did at Canyon Ridge with Kent Ridge for their field renovation, to add lighting to both the baseball field and the fast pitch field.
Do you happen to know how long we've been out of compliance for on this?
I do not. I'll let Wade speak to that.
Vice President Cook, just to kind of add to that last question, and then I'll answer your second question. Sure. The reason this won't be an issue in other buildings is because no other buildings has a discrepancy between a male sport having something that a female sport doesn't have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we did have that, say if Kentwood had, girls' fast pitch had lighting, but the boys' baseball field didn't, we'd be having the same conversation.
I see.
So it's important that each individual school, we are in compliance with Title IX. And since it was brought to our attention after the fact, and again, I wasn't a part of the design when it went in 2019 or 2018, when it was brought to our attention, which is amazing how long it took to actually be brought to our attention. We knew that we needed to address it. Fortunately, we also knew, as you can tell tonight, that we didn't have this on any levy or bond.
Yeah.
So we have to come to you to access fund balance levy funds from 2018 to be able to address something that is something that we've now been notified. We are now in notice of a compliance issue that we need to address.
And that was in the 2018, like we did this in 2018?
We did this in 2018.
Okay, so this is just bringing that up to date, as it should have been done in the first place, we just didn't do it right.
Correct. So in 2018, when KM's grass field was turned into synthetic, KM's baseball field already had lights. The boys' baseball field already had lights. The girls' fast pitch field was in the opposite corner of that open field that it is right now. So it's not even, we relocated the girls' fast pitch field, made it synthetic, but never put up a scoreboard, never put up lights.
I see.
That's the piece
I see.
that we need to address. Yeah.
And so there isn't a concern for, like, at least not from Title IX, about different schools not matching. That part's okay, right?
Yeah, not across the district, like school by school.
Yeah. Like if one school has it and the other doesn't, if there's some problem with that or what have you.
No, because that'll be when we get into projects, whether it be bonds or levies, and we start doing things, we'll be making sure how we didn't do this, I don't know, I can't speak to that, but we're gonna fix it. And in the future, we'll make sure that there is no discrepancy, so there won't be any non-compliance to Title IX
That makes
moving
sense.
forward.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
Seeing no further discussion, there's been a motion made and seconded for approval of item number 8.05, Kent Meridian High School Fast Pitch Title IX Compliance Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve item number 8.06, French Field Accessible Ramp Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy.
I second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 8.06, French Field Accessible Ramp Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy. We are now open for discussion.
So I had a similar question on this to what we were discussing before. I don't believe this applies, like this isn't an issue with ADA. We're not trying to be compliant with ADA. We already are based on what we have provided at this point. It's just so that both sides of the field have accessible entrances. Is that correct?
Vice President Cook, partially yes.
Okay.
So there is ADA accessibility on the visitor side. There is ADA accessibility for visitors and guests and things like that to access the bleachers on the home side.
Okay.
This is more for our day-to-day students at Kent Meridian High School or athletes who may be ambulatory athletes that need to be able to have access to the field. Because right now, the only way to the field on the home side is down the very steep hill. And that doesn't necessarily work for all of our students. Students in wheelchairs, students with physical disabilities are unable to do that.
Yeah.
So this would allow for a ADA accessible ramp, switchback ramp that will get us all the way down to the field, so students not only accessing the field, but potentially even the visitor side, because if you've been to French Field, there's maybe 40 parking spots on the visitor side.
yeah.
And so not everybody who may need access to ADA accessibility ramps and things like that are going to be able to park over there. So this is kind of a catch-all for students currently, athletes that would be coming to that space as well to use there, but also our constituents and community members that need to access through an ADA accessible ramp on the east side.
Okay, that makes sense. Because the amount on there, it's not super high, but it is, $800,000 or so, I believe. Is that right? Oh, no, 350, sorry. I was thinking of another one. $350,000. So the amount, how did we come to this determination? Like, I'm just curious what the process was to determine that this was the right one to do and that this is better than doing the other options that we have going on right now.
This budget was brought up by consulting with engineers who work with civil design, and just kind of not really getting into an actual ROM design, but just kind of looking at the requirements and just cost basing it off of what we feel would be needed for the project.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I wasn't saying we shouldn't do it. I was just curious how we got to that.
Yeah. The other, I wanted just to add another piece to those of us who've been to French Field over the years. The board's done a great job of, I would say, getting it up to par to where it needs to be from a usage perspective, a ton of use. I would say that field, Dr. Behringer, and complex is one of the highest usage in terms of percentage in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not exaggerating there. We do need more parking, by the way. That said, we've done a lot of work there. French Field itself, I think it looks really good compared to where it was. We're doing a good job of keeping up, and this is one of those pieces. Let's make sure we're compliant, of course.
Yeah.
But I just want to share that for the board's consideration and understanding.
Just to kind of dig in a little bit more to the ROM of $350,000. This particular switchback ramp system, to be ADA, you have to have a particular pitch or degree, and then also a certain amount of concrete and width and railing systems and things like that. So if you've been to French Field, or you can visualize standing in the KM parking lot looking at French Field to the west, it's actually on the south side where the stairs go down by the flagpole, and then you go around the back side, the Kent Kangley side. The switchback would actually have to use that entire space, almost out to the road, back, and then back to get down there. So you're talking about hundreds of feet of concrete pathway, and the concrete and the rebar and all that kind of stuff. And then also just the civil structuring piece that you have to do within the hillside itself. So when you add everything up, it gets there pretty quickly. And that's just an estimate from the civil engineer, so.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, just anecdotally, my grandmother helped sell candy to build the French Field back when she was going there. So, I mean, this was a very long time ago, but yeah,
very cool.
Kind of an interesting thing.
Seeing no further comments from the board, a motion has been made and seconded for approval of item 8.06, French Field Accessible Ramp Added Project to 2018 Capital Levy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
807.
I move to approve item 8.07, Kent Ridge High School HVAC upgrade additional funding.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. We're for item number 8.07, Kent Ridge High School HVAC upgrade additional funding. We are now open for discussion.
This is the one that I was thinking of that was 800,000. So the question that I had on this, it looks like it's a pretty significant increase. And I was just wondering what led to the, I guess, delay so that the increase happened? Because otherwise, if we had done it at the beginning, maybe it would have been less, I assume.
It's not necessarily a delay. We have been in design for this project for quite some time now, and we are utilizing the Department of Energy Services, DES, for Washington State cooperative pricing, along with our controls contractor, ATS, and our HVAC contractor, and Northwest Mountain Air, and our design team, Metrics Engineering. Through the design, it was found that the penthouses that hold this equipment are no longer code compliant, and all of the equipment will need to be raised up above those penthouses, requiring additional structural engineering and construction. And with that, there have been some added costs along with asbestos testing that was required, and now abatement that is also required going into this work.
I see. So the total amount, it doesn't say it on here, but I'm guessing the total amount is going to be 2.8 million or 2.86 million. I mean,
that is correct. It's actually a little bit more than that, but we are combining another controls upgrade.
Okay.
So, with this project, it didn't make sense to perform the controls work upgrade before the HVAC equipment upgrade. So we're doing that in tandem. We are working this project as a GMAC, which is a gross maximum amount of construction costs. So my ask here to add additional funding to this project is simply to cover all of the identified costs, including the unforeseens, which we have already gotten into. So once this project's underway, we will not be coming back for asking for any additional money.
and are we able to get, because it doesn't break it down as far as what we're exactly spending the money on and whatnot. Normally when we have some of these change orders and stuff like that, it includes a breakdown. Do we have a breakdown that we could share with the community and whatnot?
I could get a breakdown for you that shows where each of the itemized costs are broken out to. That would be fine. I do have that from our consultant, and you know, when we ask for 800 to be added to the budget, it's just to cover everything that we're anticipating. If something does not end up costing that much, that the additional funding will go back into the overall fund balance.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm okay with it as long as we get that information so that we can share it. Thank you.
Seeing no further comments from the board, a motion's been made and seconded for approval of 807 Kent Ridge High School HVAC upgrade additional funding. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to approve item 8.12 vouchers.
Second.
I second.
A motion's been made and seconded for approval of item 8.12 vouchers. We are now open for discussion.
All right. I know I harp on this quite a bit every time we have our vouchers come up. It looks like we have another $57,157.20 that we are paying Foster Garvey for. And I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out, as well as our total legal costs over the past 2 months, which is what this encompasses, seem to be about $128,743, which seems kind of extreme in comparison to what I've been seeing over time, but maybe that's just because of the timing for whatever reason, or we have more things going on at this time than we have in the past. But I assume that some of those costs are also due to our board choosing to continue the litigation of my own lawsuit here. So for that reason, I likely will not be voting for this.
Again, 1669 has been rescinded.
Yeah, the lawsuit still stands though. Thank you. That's all I have.
Seeing that there's no further discussion from the board, the item 8.12 vouchers has been motioned for approval and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. We are now on to section 9.0, informational, and that's been included in your board packet for your reading pleasure. We move on to section 10.0, final communication from the audience. Since we did have all of our comments taken during the first portion, we can move right on to 8.02, board reports and discussion. We will start today with Director Gregory.
First, I want to say thank you to all the KSD team that has been helping me on board. I do have my tech. It is working, and my phone and my computer are synced up, so I'm very happy. I wanted to report that out to let everybody know. I also, I'm looking forward, Superintendent Vella, we are going to go to several schools, and I am very interested. I do want to say, where's my maintenance? I'll be on the truck. I used to have my forklift. I used to have that approved. I don't know if I can get my new certification, but I can help with pallets. I'm a pallet jack girl. So I'll be happy to do that in the future. The one other thing I want to point out is, sorry, the Kentwood Model UN team went to Seattle, to the Seattle Model UN over the weekend, and one of our Kentwood students was named Best Delegate. I'm not going to disclose his name, but it is posted on the Kentwood Model UN webpage, and you can follow them on Instagram. So I just wanted to point that out, that we do have community involvement, and I'm super excited about Claw Mun. It's coming up, so look for an invite.
Thank you, Director Gregory, and welcome to the team. Director Song.
Yep, due to the loss of my voice, I'm going to pass for today.
Well, thank you very much, and we hope you feel better soon. Director Clark.
I joined much of the administrative team at Scenic Hill yesterday to congratulate the Teacher of the Year. But I want to make a couple of observations when I was in that classroom. So this is a kindergarten group, but it's in a dual language program. Mm-hmm. And obviously, she's very enthusiastic and very well organized, and it was all obvious as the kids were focused and just doing, the teacher is clearly doing a great job. And we have our staff in this district are just wonderful. And among the things that I've noticed in terms of, particularly when I go into the elementaries, the efforts at inclusion really make a difference in the kids' participation and feeling that this is their place, and it shows. And of course, the teachers are the ones that make that happen, and I just think it's a wonderful transition going on. And my last announcement is I will not be running for office next year. So those looking at this board spot, the filing date is May 5th and that week. And if anybody wants any help from me, please feel free to call. Thank you.
I'm sorry for the sad news, but thank you for your report. And Director or Vice President Cook.
All right. First, I want to say thank you for providing that information so early. It's really helpful for our community to know these things ahead of time so that they can plan for it if they want to run. It is quite a task, as Director Clark is well aware, as he's been in a lot of politics for a very long time. So I want to thank you for all of the time that you've spent helping our community here in Kent and the greater community overall, and all the time that you've done all of your work here. That's really fantastic. Other than that, last week I was able to attend the Kent 101 series, which is kind of a learning how the city runs things and that sort of stuff. It was really neat getting to go and see all of that and chat with them a little bit about partnerships that we could do together. I'm not a resident of Kent, so I really wanted to thank them for allowing me to come into that space and hear from them and see what they were doing there. There are a few more meetings that I'll be going to with that, but so far it seems very good, very interesting. And then also I wanted to point out, I have been working in other districts, as I've said a few times here. Most recently, I I did work for them over in Renton for nutrition services. And so it was really great that they're open to me coming in there so I can learn more about education and all the different components of our education system so that I can make better choices on how to vote for things here in Kent. So I just wanted to point that out. I will still be working in other capacities, both in teaching as well as paraeducation, and we'll start broadening that into other positions that have the same sort of setup. Other than that, that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Cook. Short report for tonight. Again, excited to have Teresa Gregory here rounding out our team. A congratulations again to Ms. Curtis at Scenic Hill Teacher of the Year. Wonderful teacher, great school, and good things happening there, and it's fun to be able to celebrate that. I look forward to the Community and Schools Breakfast. It is such a great partner that we have within the community, and just the mentorship has such an impact on our students. And we have people here who represent the district and work very closely with this program, and we were so lucky for the partnership that they give us. And I encourage anybody to come and support them, and either with your time or with your checkbook. Also, thank you again for the presentations tonight, Mr. Cook, Mr. Hopkins, and Principal O'Brien. It is great to hear about the wonderful things that are happening in our district, and there are so many. There's just almost not enough time to be able to have everybody come in. So thank you so much for having that. Last thing I would like to say is thank you, students. We do all of this for you. Thank you for choosing to come to school every day and be part of all the programs and really lead us into, as I get older, that you are the wonderful people that will be taking care of me, and I know that we're in good hands. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve you, and have a wonderful evening. It is 8:51, and we are adjourned.